Hello, friends, and welcome to our Friday morning live stream. This time, a special episode with a special theme introducing two new renunciates to the world, two new monastics who have started their path towards the full ordination in the Sangha and started their path towards full awakening in the Buddhist dispensation. So today we're just going to take some time to introduce them to you. It's for those of you who haven't met them, and also for those of you who have, to hear a little bit more about their story and what it is that got them in the robes and where it is that they plan on going from there. So at this time, we will all render homage to the Buddha, and then we can go ahead and start talking with the two new monastics. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ dhammāṃ saṅghāṃ namasāmi. And hello to everyone who's joining, both live and afterwards. We have here currently Manu, Bhumika, and Jayanta saying hello. So hello to all of you and anyone else who might be joining. So maybe we can just go ahead and get started by hearing what your names are and what exactly happened a few days ago or a few weeks ago now, I think. So maybe we can start with Venerable Kevalā. Do you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, my name is Sāmaṇerī Kevalā, and a few weeks ago I was ordained as a novice, a Sāmaṇerī.
And when was that?
April 6th.
April 6th.
I think.
And yourself, Venerable?
Same, except my name is Sāmaṇera Nipako.
And do you mind sharing what your name means?
Mine means subtle, clever, prudent, wise, discreet, words like that.
And yourself, Venerable?
Perfect, whole, and complete is what Monday Sudaso said.
Both of you have very lofty names. So, okay, so maybe at this time we can just, and I should say that anyone who has any questions for the novices, for the new monastics, feel free to leave those in the chat, and then after we just do a little bit of introduction, they can start answering some of your questions. But maybe we can get started and just hear a little bit what your story is for how it is that you came to want to take the robes, and then your story of finding the monastery, your story of finding this particular place, and your story of eventually making the decision to go forth, and then how it was when that actually happened. So just kind of the background from before, during, and then afterwards we can talk about how it's been since then. Maybe we'll do the introduction. So Venerable Kevalā, do you want to share your story?
Sure. It's like 4 questions, so maybe I should give very short versions. Well, I was a spiritual seeker for most of my life, starting very young, and found my way to Buddhism, I think, for the first time in high school, but it wasn't until 2020 that I actually became a proper Buddhist and started intensive training. I trained at a Mahayana center in northern Vermont for about 3 years. It's called Maple, or the Monastic Academy. And it was a very intense place, a very intense way of training. And it got me through the door. So I'm grateful, very grateful to that place. And then I took a break from practice for a little while. Not completely, but I thought I would try a lay life. But my monastic aspiration was really born when I was training at Maple. So I just kind of set it aside for a while, and then it kept knocking on my heart's door and wouldn't let me go. So I realized I have to do this, and nothing else is going to satisfy this longing in my heart. And certainly everything I was doing and trying out in my life was extremely unsatisfying, and just proved to be suffering. So I went on some long retreats, and then I found this place last year, actually last summer. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the monastics here. They're so sincere and wonderful, and the lay community is so warm and welcoming and kind, and I felt really at home here from the start. So when Bhante Sudaso said he would consider giving me ordination, the heart just said, yes, this is the place. So fast forward to now, I guess. You asked how it's been, I think.
Not yet. We'll
Not
just
yet.
see how was so. Maybe we'll pause there. Actually, that's a good pausing
Sorry,
point.
that was a long answer.
No, that
So
was a
give
good.
a
That was
short
good.
one.
I'm sure that people want to know even more details. That's good, but just to break it up, that way people can follow the pieces. So maybe Venerable Nipako, do you want to share a similar trajectory up to how you started practicing, up to kind of how you decided to go forth here?
Yeah. So for me, I've been practicing for about 15 years. So I'll give the short version. So I grew up Catholic, but for whatever reason, my grandparents had a Buddhai in their garden that they would tell me was the Buddha. So sometimes when I was unhappy as a little kid, I would go and I would talk to this Buddha because he would just listen and not talk back. So that planted a seed when I was like really, really little. And then in middle school, I started to get into anime, which got Japanese Zen onto my radar. So eventually I Googled Zen monasteries near me because I saw that Buddhism at that point had kept showing up in my life over and over and over again. So I thought maybe I should actually look into this. And my search results didn't show anything super close to me, but they had online resources. So I practiced with Zen Mountain Monastery from afar for about 6 years until I was finally able to go in person. And just from what they had on the website, I thought, I think it would be cool to become a monk someday. So this happened when I was in high school, about 2010. But I didn't think it was actually realistic because I didn't live anywhere near a monastery. So fast forward to college, and I was part of this multi-faith group, and I was the only Buddhist. They learned I had never been to a monastery. So they were very kind, and they brought me to the Peace Pagoda up in Leverett, Massachusetts. It was the first monastery I ever went to. And I was so excited. And before I even saw the entire pagoda, just the itty bitty top, the match inside of me grew into like a bonfire of like, you have to become a monk. This actually is possible. So at that point, I already had some debt. So I was like, well, I know I got to pay that off and go from there. And then a couple of months later, that same group actually helped support me go to Zen Mountain Monastery because they had learned I wanted to go for years at that point. And then that fire grew even bigger, and I had the opportunity to talk to the abbot, Shugen Roshi, a couple times. So he gave me a trajectory to go towards if I was serious about it. And my practice has changed since then, and since I'm here and not there. But there's nothing else to do. And I'm so incredibly grateful that in 2019, I had already known Bhante Jayasara, which is a monastic who's been here before, so many of you probably know him. I was part of an online group that he has, and he knew Ayasoma and Bhante Sudaso. So when they opened this place, he mentioned it in that space. I started to follow them online, then COVID happened, and eventually I was able to show up in person. And I loved the community. I liked that it was a sutta-based community, early Buddhist teachings, and that they have a blend of like a schedule and free time, and that you never know when they're going to change the schedule. So I like the format. I feel like I get along well with the community. I love the lay community. I like that there's opportunities to go and do activities like Tudong. So it just felt like it was a good fit for my practice.
Great, Sadhu. So both of you started in the Mahayana tradition, a little bit in Zen, and maybe we can just go from there. Was that a little bit of was that a transition for you when you switched from practicing in a different setting? Both of you from maybe we could say a kind of more focused practice, right? Both in a kind of center, a little bit different centers, but neither of them had fully ordained monastics, fully ordained Vinaya monastics in the same sense that you are now. So maybe you can talk a bit briefly about how was that transition from a different type of, a different tradition, still Buddhist, so a lot in common, but a little bit different, and also transitioning from into a full monastic environment. Kevalā, you want to?
Yeah, I don't know. I felt very drawn to Zen. The place where I trained is not officially a Rinzai Zen center, but that's where the founding teacher, that's what he trained in Japan. And so that's the vibe that he brought in a really big way. So it was very strict and austere and severe, very fiery. And something in me felt drawn to that. I feel some kind of affinity with that style of practice, but I also just hit a wall really hard there, trying to force it, trying to push myself to do something that wasn't quite clicking, wasn't quite working. And so I eventually just realized, like, I need something else. I need to try something softer, gentler, maybe. And while I was there, I was already starting to get into Theravada because I didn't feel resonant with the Bodhisattva thing. I was like very skeptical of it the whole time. And so I started looking into Theravada places and teachers more. And yeah, it feels much more like home. I still feel very interested in Zen in a big way. There's some draw, maybe there's like some past life stuff there. But I appreciate the kind of gentler, slower pace I feel in, at least in the Western Theravada circles. And so, yeah, the shift feels good. And also, I really do want to practice Vinaya. Yeah, I feel very strongly that the Pali Canon should be our foundation for the practice, and this is the kind of practice that the Buddha gave us. He gave us the Vinaya. So since Zen doesn't have that, I feel I can't quite go back to that.
Okay, Sadhu. And Venerable Nipako, how was your transition from this to a new type of practice and a new type of monastic environment?
So for a while I was practicing both, so that made it quite a bit easier because it ended up being a kind of natural transition. One of the biggest things that made me continue to float in this direction as I was doing both, though, was the fact that as I was reading the Pali Canon and when I started to dip my toes into the Chinese Agamas as well, is that it made the Mahayana Sutras actually make more sense. And eventually I learned that in the foundation, for a lot of these teachings, you would study the Agamas first and then do the Mahayana Sutras. And until meeting Bhante Jayasara, I didn't even know these were a thing. It didn't exist to me. So once I was like, wow, these sutras are starting to make more sense, that was a really big convincing point to me. The other thing too was that I found that I was reading through the Pali Canon, specifically the Majjhima Nikaya at the time, that was my first exposure,
Mm.
that it really helped my practice grow and flourish. So it really felt like it wasn't much of a transition. It was very easy for me. I liked it a lot. The one thing that was a little bit different, though, is I found that Theravada monasteries are a little bit more chaotic than Zen monasteries, especially in terms of schedule. So you never know what's going to happen. People might just randomly show up or have no idea what's going on. So you have to let them know each step of the way. Meanwhile, when I would go to Zen Mountain Monastery, unless you were there for like an intro to Zen retreat or something, everybody knew what was going on and nobody was ever late for anything. So it was a little different in that respect. But otherwise, I felt like they were smooth, easy, natural, and like Sāmaṇerī Kevalā was saying, the Vinaya, although I don't really have a good reason why, other than I guess possibly karmic affinity, it started to become important to me over the years. And the more I learned about it and how it supports your practice, and how I saw just the 5 and the 8 precepts supported my practice and really helped me grow, I was like, well, what else are you going to do? I guess this is the way I'm going.
Great, sadhu. Okay, so then maybe we can talk about the actual process of going forth. So we've got the story in the background a little bit, but in terms of that step, right, moving forward and what we call papata, going forth, leaving the home life and becoming a homeless renunciant, and in the form of a monastic, wearing the robe and having a bull and no longer having money and so on. So these are the biggest, bigger transition from lay life into a homeless life. So Venerable Kevalā, how was that actual transition for you? Both just the preparing up for it, briefly preparing to it, and then the actual process. And now that you've gone forth, how was that transition into being a monastic?
It's felt pretty natural for the most part. Like just a matter of course, like of course this is the next right thing. Of course this is what I'm doing, because all of my doubts and machinations of mind, I kind of went through that process in the years leading up to now. So actually getting here and feeling decided, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to let go of all these things. And except when Bande Sudaso offered Venerable Nipako and I novice ordination, he said, in a few weeks we can do this if you want. I definitely had like a full-on freak out that lasted for several days. It really stirred up a lot of fear and panic and doubt, and I had to get a lot of support to move through that. But it felt like once I felt the fear fully and really confronted what was arising, a big chunk of the iceberg sort of cleaved off for good so far. And since then I felt like very settled and very clear. Yes, this is the right thing. And it actually felt really good to go back into my storage and get rid of all of my things and give a lot of my stuff to friends. I gave some things to give to a friend so he could sell them and make some money. And yeah, since finally letting go of my bank account and my credit cards, I just feel like a weight has left, and I can just do the practice, do the thing that is most important to me in a really focused way.
And how was the ceremony for you? Was there any the ceremony itself?
The ceremony, nerve-wracking. Yeah. I messed up once. But it was also really sweet to feel the support of the lay community and feel their care, and to finally put on these robes. Yeah, it was a big moment.
Sadhu. And Venerable Nipako, how about yourself?
I was glad it finally happened. I had been patiently waiting for several years for conditions to come together. I had a lot of debt. I ended up paying like just under $160,000 in about 3.5 years. So I worked my butt off. So it was just like a huge sense of relief once it finally happened, and so much gratitude that I had the opportunity, and in such a great supportive community. And I had been on the 8 precepts for the majority of the last 3 years before coming here. So I was meditating pretty much every day. I was doing puja pretty much every day. Early on, a teaching I got from Zen Mountain Monasteries: how can you bring the monastery home? What's the difference? So I felt like I was as far up against the wall of what I could do as a layperson at that point. So it worked. It was fine, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So yeah, just relief and gratitude. It's finally here. When I was getting very close to leaving my job, it actually dawned on me how much I never thought this was actually going to happen, just due to my circumstances. And when Bhante asked us, I was like, yes, this is going to be a long month that I have to wait. But I got a date now. So I was very happy. And the ordination ceremony, it was fine. I messed up where I knew I would. When they break up one of the precepts into 2, I can do it without a problem when it's all one, but then I mess it up when it's split into 2. So it was good.
Great.
Quick.
Yeah, it's a short ceremony. No?
It's like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Probably less than that if it wasn't for Bhante Sudaso informing the lay people what was going on, and then Sāmaṇerī, Kevalā, and I changing from our anagarika robes into our monk robes.
Great. And maybe before we move to any questions, we can see how have things been since the ceremony, since going forth, and just the initial stages of being a monastic and adjusting to the new clothing, the new outfit, also the new bowl where you're using an official monastic bowl, and no longer offering food and so on. So now that you're following the precepts and you've actually taken the form, how has it been so far? And how do you feel about moving forward? Kevalā?
Well, the robes are fine. They just changed color. So I was mostly used to it. Maybe the biggest shift for me has felt like the shift from working in the kitchen and managing the food coming in and going out and serving it, to just being the one who receives and not having so much control. That's been tough because I care a lot about food waste. Just want everything to be perfect. So good for my control issues and working on that, but a little uncomfortable. Then we got rid of all the food, so it's easier. Anyway, what else was there?
I guess now that you're following the precepts and also moving forward, how do you feel about the future of your monastic life, the future of your practice?
Oh yeah, I will say there was a very nice honeymoon period after the ordination. That it was like I was very happy, but then I got very busy and I started weaning off of caffeine, and so I got a bit sick, so I've been feeling kind of low lately, but still happy to be here and still on track for full ordination. That is still my aspiration. But yeah, the practice is it's hard. For me, I've been in kind of a dark night for like the last couple years. A lot of confusion about what to do and what's going on. So I'm still in the midst of that, and about to go to Italy soon. So I'm hoping the intensity of that experience will sort of jar loose whatever stuckness I'm in right now. Bit of a rambly answer.
No,
I
no.
apologize.
Great. And then Nipako, how about yourself? Now that you've taken the step forward, following the precepts and moving forward into just more time practicing the precepts and maybe eventually full ordination, right? So how has it been going since then?
Yeah, it's been going fine. Like, what else was I supposed to be doing? That's basically what it felt like. The only thing that was a little bit weird was not being on the offering end. Like, I've really loved giving things to the Sangha. And before I took food the first day, this thought arose of how in the suttas, you'll sometimes hear like Mahakassapa, he says, for 7 days I was in debt eating the nation's alms food. So I thought, oh no, I'm about to be in debt again. But at least it's a good type of debt, I suppose. Every day I'm able to reflect in the gratitude of the kindness that people brought any food at all. So I should use this well. I should practice well. That way it doesn't go to waste. So I use the mealtime for that kind of reflection every day, which was something I would think about sometimes, but it didn't have that solidity that it has now that I have the bowl and I'm in the monastic form. Otherwise, it's been fine. I mean, when I had money, I wasn't buying things much anyway. Most of it went to my debt. Yeah, it's been fine. I hear a lot of people have a similar experience to Sāmaṇerī Kevalā, where they have a lot of euphoria. But for me, it just felt like relief. Like I'm not awakened, so I'm still not safe yet, but I'm in a much better container to find that safety. So I've still had that sense of relief following with me, especially if I recollect it during the morning puja. So yeah, it's been going well.
Great.
I'm happy to be here.
Sadhu. Okay, well, maybe we can take a few questions from the chat for now. So if anyone else has questions, feel free to leave them here and we can get the new monastics to answer your questions. We have a question from Maria who says, how does the ordination process for novices differ from what we recently experienced with Ayavanta? What is the commitment from the Western perspective? Is it any different than traditional countries? Maybe Venerable Kevalā, do you want to answer a bit? How is the ordination process for novices different from a full Bhikkhuni ordination?
Yeah.
And what is the commitment? Is it any different from in traditional countries? Ordaining and going forth in a Western country?
Well, I have not had the privilege and pleasure of attending a full ordination. So, I mean, I saw some videos, thankfully. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that process, like what all it includes. But as Sāmaṇerī Nipako mentioned, it is obviously much shorter, the novice ordination. Yeah, if you just go through the script, it's like maybe 15 minutes. But I think your ordination was like closer to an hour.
It's probably a bit longer, yeah, it depends. The script is also not that long actually for a full ordination if you go just by what's in the Vinaya. Yeah. And in terms of your commitment, do you feel, do you want to make any comments on the difference of commitment being in a Western country, a Western context, rather than in a traditional country like in Asia, Thailand, or Sri Lanka, Burma?
I'm not sure what they mean exactly, because when I read that, I just think of like, are the precepts different? And of course they're not. So I don't know, do you understand that question differently?
Maybe Venerable Nipako, do you have any
I do actually. So I think this would depend upon the monastery you go to, but I think the day after, it was within the first week, somebody that was from Sri Lanka, he mentioned that something he noticed is that the training in Western monasteries often includes much less blessing chanting and ceremonies. So he was saying that the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis there would know all sorts of ceremonies unless they were forest monks. So that is one thing I have noticed just in the West in general. There's a lot less of that. But otherwise, we have the same precepts. So the actual practices we might be learning will differ a little bit.
Great. Okay. And then we have a question from Gregory. Hello, Gregory, who says, how many monastics were needed for the ceremony? Will there be another ceremony to go from Sāmaṇera to bhikkhuni or bhikkhu? Kevalā?
So I believe only Bhante Sudaso was needed for the ceremony. We didn't need a quorum, in other words, of monks. I think we just needed the Hisiya or preceptor. And yes, there will be another ceremony for us if we fully ordain. Yep.
Yeah. And then we have a question from Manal, who says, Aya Kevalā and Aya Nipako, it's a joy seeing you in robes. Just a basic question for the both of you, since sutta studies is a core part of the tradition. Which sutta has left the greatest impression on you? And if you can explain why. Starting with Venerable Nipako, which sutta has left the greatest impression on you?
There's a lot of really good ones. Like Bhante Sudaso, where I have like a long list of my favorite suttas. I guess the first one to come to mind at the moment right now is in the Itivuttaka. This is one that is in my rotating list of ones I think of frequently. And I don't remember which number it is. But the point of the sutta is that the Buddha is wearing his robe. And if somebody were to hold the corner of his robe and step where he steps and follow him everywhere, if they weren't practicing the Buddha's teachings, they are nowhere near the Buddha, even though physically they may be. Meanwhile, if somebody is practicing the Buddha's teachings and is miles and miles away, or you can think of it at time as well, then they are the ones that are close to the Buddha. So this is something that I'll often reflect on, that if I am practicing well, then I am near the Buddha. I'm learning from his teachings. So I don't have to be like the distance I am from Ayurveda to be close to the Buddha. And this is something I often find great joy in, because we don't have the Buddha alive today. So it gives this life and closeness and faith and just gratitude that we have these teachings, and I can be close to the Buddha despite distance in both physicality and time. So, and in the past, sometimes I would be a little bit lonely, and this would be a way for me to feel closer to the Buddha with his own words. So,
And Venerable Kevalā, do you have a sutta which has left an impression on you and it's been inspiring to your practice?
I'm glad you went first, Venerable. It took me a moment to decide. I mean, several, as you say, several things come to mind. But when I look in the heart, the one that like shines there most brightly is, I think it's in chapter 14 or 15 in the Samyutta Nikaya. The one that goes like, in this long wandering on through samsara, etc., etc. It is not easy to find a being who has not at one point been your mother, your father, brother, sister, daughter, son, etc. And every time I read that, it deeply moves me. For some reason, I just have this inexplicable faith in that. Like, it just seems obviously true to me. And so then I look around me and and I have faith that, sorry, I'm losing my voice. I have this faith that all these beings have been everything to me, and I've been everything to them at one point or another. And then the idea of killing is just unthinkable, let alone harming in any way. And there's there's an incredible intimacy that comes from contemplating that sutta. Like, we have all been here forever together, helping each other, hurting each other, helping each other grow, inspiring each other, and molding each other, and perhaps one day helping each other to awaken. So it's just a very beautiful thing to contemplate for me. And since really taking that sutta in, whenever I see like insects or creatures, I'll often just say like, "Hey, Mom, how you doing?" Because at some point they've been my mother, and I want to remember that yeah, the preciousness of that.
Sadhu, yeah, both really great selections, really great suttas, especially for just this inspiring quality going forth. These really inspiring suttas. And Etienne says, "I'm so happy. I love you guys. Just seeing you makes me happy with much metta." Sadhu. So very, very joyful comment. And we have Anjali from Julie. Hope you're doing well, Julie. And from Ryan. And Ryan asks, "What has scared you the most in your practice?" And it clarifies, either aspects of practicing or from the suttas. Nipako?
So for me, it was the very real possibility that with my circumstances, I would never be able to ordain. That was something that would come up to me quite frequently. And it would cause me a lot of sadness and some remorse. And sometimes people would tell me that, like, "Oh, this specific circumstance, it's because of your bad karma." But then one day, about being a woman, Ayasoma said, "Actually, you know what? I've had so much suffering. Being a woman is great karma because it got me in robes." So I was like, wow, yeah, I can apply this to me as well. And I thought that was great. So yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I cried over the fact that I thought this would never happen. So yeah, that fear, at least I don't have to worry about that one now. Aside from that, and I'd say these are pretty equal, that I won't become at least a stream enterer in this lifetime, because it's possible I won't. We were actually talking yesterday, I think Venerable Xinghui had mentioned a story where a bunch of monastics were reborn as cows. I could be reborn as a cow in the next life. I could be a hell being. I could be a Brahma. All of those options aren't great for practice. So yeah, it's possible I'm not going to have the conditions in this lifetime. Heading in the right direction, but it might be a while.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And then Kevalā, what has scared you the most in your practice, either suttas or practicing?
Yeah, it's similar for me, especially the style of training at Maple. There's a lot of urgency that's being like fed into the system a lot, like that's coming through the teachings. And that just really clicked with my mind and my karma in a way that I don't know, it landed. I felt an enormous amount of urgency, like I have to do this in this life. And when I was there, I was thinking like I have to attain arahantship in this life. I think I didn't realize how hard that is. But yeah, I was terrified that I wouldn't make it, that I wouldn't realize this truth that had been kind of clawing at my heart my whole life, like this need to know what is really going on here, and what is this all about, and how do I live? How do I live? And so the urgency is still kind of there. It's abated a bit, but yeah, I'll never forget in my first solo retreat reading suttas about the hell realms, and again having this inexplicable faith, like this is real, and it has always stuck with me that yeah, I could be reborn in a really horrible place. I don't know what karma I have back there that could ripen, so that fear lives with me and can be quite hard to work with, honestly.
Well, thank you for sharing, Venerable. Great answers from both of you. And then we have, it looks like, one more question currently from Sud. Sud says, when one is bowing to you as a monastic, please tell us who or what are they bowing to? So maybe, Nipako, do you want to take this one? And then we'll see if we have anything to add.
They're bowing to the robe and the triple gem. It's not about me. A reflection that I've heard Bhante Sudaso tell before is if there is a monk that is much more senior to you and you think they're an incredibly unimpressive monk, but they have like 20, 30, 40, 50 vasa, when you're bowing to them, you're bowing to their commitment to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, not necessarily how they are as an individual. And they're trying, like it's a big deal to be in robes for that long. So if you make it about yourself, then that really defeats the point. So.
Great. Sadhu, do you have anything to add to this, Venerable?
Well, I feel like I really don't know. I'd be very curious to ask people what in their hearts they feel they're bowing to when they bow to the Sangha. Perhaps they are feeling some kind of inspiration or devotion to a particular monastic, and they want to express that, or maybe they're reciting a particular prayer in their mind. I don't know. I'd be very curious to know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, do we have any closing words, maybe on renunciation and on commitment to the Dhamma, or on monastic life? Maybe advice for lay people, or maybe any people who are listening out there who want to be their candidates, who want to go forth and start practicing as a monastic. So, any tips as recent monastic converts? Nipako?
The number one mistake people make in their practice is they give up or they stop. So don't give up or stop. And if you want to become a monk, like if it's something you really want to do, I was laser focused. Like there was nothing else I wanted to do. Whenever I would go to work, and I'd be working 62 hours a week for almost the entire time I was working, that's why I was doing it. I would recollect the things that I am having the struggles with right now, because that was awful. It's going to be worth it if I can become a monk. So if you're wishy-washy, may or may not happen, but if it's something you really, really, really want to do, this was one of the most convincing things to come to me with no clear way forward. Here I am. So don't give up. If you really want to do it, it will happen. If you don't really want to do it, then it won't happen.
Okay, Sadhu. And for Kevalā, any advice, tips, or reflections for people?
It's tricky. I want to be quite blunt. I don't know if
Go
it's
ahead.
Right. Yeah. Okay, maybe I won't say that. Well, it's worth it. Yeah. Maybe I'll just say renunciation is worth it. All the things you can acquire all the fun and beautiful experiences you can have in life, they're impermanent, and when you die, you can't take them with you. Like eventually you will have to lose everything anyway. So why not lose it all now and find a happiness that lasts? Yeah, even me, I struggle so much in the practice, and I don't know that I'm fed all that much in meditation itself, but still renouncing lay life and all of the complication and messiness that comes with it is worth it, because I'm free. I'm free to focus on what matters most, like I said before. Yeah. And if you can't ordain and you want to, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be too brutal, but certainly, as Venerable Nipako said, you can still practice in beautiful and deep ways in lay life. So I don't need to be religious about it or pushy.
Okay, sadhu. Then we have one more question. Ryan, it looks like you have a question which I would say is a little bit off topic, but you can bring that to monk chat tonight if you'd like, just because it's not directly related to this theme. But Sud does have a question which is directly related and says, did you have any commitments you had to let go prior to becoming a monk? Wife, husband, or children? Any wives, husbands, or children?
Nope. Yeah, I mean, I did have a relationship. I was in a somewhat long-term, very committed relationship, and the whole time I was in it, I was like, "Oh, should I really be in this? I actually want to ordain." And yeah, that longing kept clawing at me. So it was very hard, but in the end, we did choose to separate, and I'm so glad to be free of that commitment. So grateful, and yeah, it's worth it.
Sounds good. Nipako, any wives, children, or husbands?
I was allergic to the idea of romantic relationships, so nope, didn't have to worry about that. Plus, I knew I wanted to become a monk, so I knew that would be a silly thing to do. Waste of time, so I didn't bother. But I did have a dog. If it weren't for my dog, I would have actually been able to ordain, or at least get started, like 1.5 years or 2 years earlier than it started. She was a great dog, but she was very attached to me. Like when she was a baby, she would scream if I left her vision type dependent. And it was something I had spoken to Bhante Sudaso about when I first showed up here, and he agreed with me that, yeah, you should take care of her until she dies. And she died in my arms almost 1 year ago now. So that was my last commitment. It was that and my debt.
Great. Well, I think we can all say 3 sadhus to the new monastics, to renunciation, and going forth to rejoice in this. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I hope you all have a beautiful morning and a beautiful week. And if you want to come and see the new monastics, you're welcome to come to our public programs or come to lunch in the morning. So we hope to see you around both online or in person or both. And have a good week.